It's the most wonderful time of the year, and you can find the season's best at Courts. Get the best brands, best prices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance and choose your payment term from 3 to 48 months. The season's best is at Courts, bringing value home. Special conditions apply.
Give me some light. It's dark, I want to see. The future's bright. I heard someone tell me you must have faith and you must pray, 'cause there'll be obstacles in the way. It only seems like it's forever, but you must hold on to your dream. So you enjoy the flan? Yes. My favorite dessert is the tiramisu. Listen, when I went to Italy years ago, I actually wanted to bring back a chef, an Italian chef, to work here with me. First, I fell in love with that tiramisu. But, you know, I just didn't bother. I mean, gosh, it was just me being excited when I was traveling. You know how it goes, Ivor. Yeah, that story I promised to tell you. Okay. Well, you know, there's not much you don't know about me, but there are some things you don't know about me. So, I'll share. So, I had a brother named Michael. He was about 5 years older than I was. He was so handsome. And from the time I was little, like about 3, 4, I knew something was different about him. And I also felt as if I had to help take care of him. Because I started to realize he was taller and he was bigger than me. But I felt at times as if he acted as if he was younger than I was. And as we kept aging, I started to realize that he was intellectually challenged. Let me tell you, he was the most loving, sweet, funny person, but he was like a child, you know? And sometimes he didn't have limits. My mother had died not long after she had me. So she had Michael, she gave birth to me, and then she died. Yes, you didn't know that, did you? I miss my mother. Even though I never really knew her very well, but I miss having a mother. And I guess Daddy tried as best as he could to fill that void. And you know, he was a great dad. But my father remarried a few years later, and my stepmother came into our lives. And for the most part, to me, she was kind of good to me. You know, she was decent enough, she was fair. But I think when she started to interact with Michael, something dark switched on in my stepmother. And I think it was resentment at what she didn't know she would have to deal with in caring for someone who's severely intellectually challenged. Well, Ivor, I don't have to tell you, man. And when I think about it, it hurts. But my stepmother was awful to my brother. I mean, she was abusive. I'm going to say the word. She was abusive. And it started to get worse as he hit his late teens, heading into adulthood. And Daddy was hardly around because, remember, he was building up the Westerly group. So he was always traveling, looking for business opportunities. He was here, he was there. So he left my stepmother to run the home, take care of us, make sure we were getting an education. Michael was attending a special school, a school for special ed, yeah. And well, you know me, I was going guns at school, doing really great. But my stepmother got to the point where she started to hit Michael. I mean, like, beat him, The caregivers knew about it. The maids in the house knew about it. I started to realize what was happening. Everybody except Daddy. And I didn't want to worry Daddy, so I didn't talk to him about it. And on top of that, she would kind of subtly threaten everyone in the home, So you kind of felt powerless because my father really loved this woman. And she would starve Michael too. Listen, Ivor, one day it got to the point where she was hitting him. And then they were at the top of the staircase. And I think she pushed him. And he fell. Ivor, listen to me. All I heard was crack. And I ran up those stairs. Let me tell you something. I ran. And I just felt my spirit leave my body. And I was looking down at my brother. And I knew this was it. I knew this was it. The caregivers called an ambulance. And they came, they took him to a private hospital. Well, I went with him. My stepmother didn't set foot in that hospital. I mean, that was the first time I ever let go on her. And I called my father, where he came. Rushed to the hospital. Everybody told him what happened. Listen, that was it, Instant love to hate. My father turned on my stepmother. I had never seen anything like that. And there was a part of me that felt proud. I know it sounds kind of morbid in that moment, like, why would he? But he showed the depth of his love for his son and for his daughter in that moment. He showed that blood was thicker than water. And he basically told my stepmother, that very night he kicked her out of the house. And he told her, he said, you will never work in this country again. You need to leave this country and not come back. Because if you stay here, I will ensure you are put in jail. And that you will rot in jail for what you did to my son. And the lesson I learned from that, there are several things. But the most important, Ivor, was that my father valued the life of his son, in spite of the fact that his son was intellectually challenged. That is what my father showed me. Biggest lesson in life. Do not devalue someone just because they don't function like you. They don't look like you. They don't behave like you. Yeah? And that's why when I gave birth to Adam, and eventually we got this autism diagnosis, yes, it was painful and it was difficult at times, but I would always keep Michael in the back of my mind. He's always there with me, always there with me in everything I do. And that's why it's important for this group, now that I'm leading it, to take the Wesley group and make an impact on the society when it comes to disabilities. Because I have to show people that in my position, with all this power, that I too value this person and that person with a disability as much as I value you, the typical person. you know? So what good am I if I'm not going to use what I have to do that, Ivor? And that is what my father is walking with me in my head constantly and reinforcing. Love for humanity, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what they present as. Yeah? And that's it. Now you know a little bit more about me.
Is a fact, strictly facts, and is that
Joaquin has never experienced major insomnia. He has generally always been a very good sleeper. He will, however, go spells where it takes him a long time to fall asleep. And sometimes that means 2-3 o'clock in the morning, he's still awake. I have found that melatonin works very well. And that usually once we do that for a week or so, he goes back to his usual sleep pattern and he's good again for another few months.
It's a different kind of mind. It is Bobb a little different than yours and mine. It's a different kind of mind. It's an old puzzle if you just try, you'll be all mine. Like a rainbow scene and a brand new vibe, you'll be all mine. 4, 3, 2.
In order to ensure that the parents get adequate sleep, it's first of all important to ensure that the kids are having adequate sleep and are sleeping through much of the night. This has to be addressed on an individual basis with either a sleep specialist or the kid's pediatrician. Once kids are sleeping through much of the night, then the parents' sleep hygiene practices can be addressed. And these would include things such as winding down at least an hour before bedtime, avoiding caffeine at least 6 hours before bedtime, avoiding electronics and alcohol just before bedtime, as well as ensuring that they have frequent exercise, but avoiding exercise just before bedtime. Next, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is usually administered by either sleep specialists or sleep psychologists, has been proven to be extremely effective in adults as well as kids who have insomnia. And this can include things such as meditation techniques, avoiding getting into bed until they're sleepy. It also includes guided imagery or relaxation techniques. Now, it sometimes may be helpful for the short term for someone who's having sleeping difficulty to be on a sleeping medication, but we generally don't recommend these for the long term. Also, any type of underlying psychological disorders such as anxiety or depression should also be addressed, as these can affect sleep. And finally, it's important that the parents try to be a part of a support group or reaching out to other parents who are having similar difficulties, as well as individual therapy if needed.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, and you can find the season's best at Quartz. Get the best brands, best prices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Quartz Ready Finance, and choose your payment term from 3 to 48 months. The season's best is at Quartz, bringing value home. Special conditions apply.
Hi Trinidad and Tobago, this is Dominique Westerly. Thank you for looking at the Autism series. We want to encourage you to continue visiting Cause and Effect social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and our website www.causeandeffect.co. Continue viewing our content and sharing it across every space that you can. Help us to transform perspectives about disabilities. Help us to continue humanizing people with disabilities so that the entire population can embrace those with disabilities and treat them with dignity and respect. Donate today by going to Cause and Effect social media pages and clicking on the donate button, or contact us at causeandeffecttt@gmail.com to find out how else you can donate. All right? So remember, like, share, subscribe, and donate today. See you next week.
It's a different kind of mind. It is Bobb a little different than yours and mine. It's a different kind of mind.